Welcome to the Harmony Channel. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll get right into it. I want to extend the conversation I was having with Josh on the Fearless show, and it relates to sports, and it relates to the Super Bowl, and some of it will be a restatement of things some of you that watch all the shows are aware of my emphasis on the importance of sports. And I've been marinating and thinking and focusing on this in a hyper-focused way for about the past year. And a lot of it was sparked by my obsession with Caitlin Clark and what she was going to bring to the WNBA and how she was going to be treated in the WNBA. And many of you heard me say very early on, man, she's going to be met with a lot of hostility. This little Catholic girl, you know, has a boyfriend / fiance, has a feminine appearance. She's white, and she's moving into a league that is hyper-secular, hyper-feminist, hyper-pro-black, anti-white, and, you know, just hyper-Marxist. And I was like, man, I don't know, she's not going to face the kind of death threats that Jackie Robinson did, but in every other way, she's going to be met with an unprecedented level of hostility, and that part of that was because, again, she represents kind of the Christian girl next door. And they're going to try to eradicate that from her. And that made me think about, like, what has happened to sports? How did sports, when I was growing up, it reinforced its job. It was married to Christian values. And someone like Tom Landry was the epitome of a football coach, or Vince Lombardi, the epitome of a coach. And you've heard me unpack in all different kinds of ways, like, hey man, here's the blueprint, or here's what used to be the blueprint for a football coach. He gets married early, has strong Christian values, the great ones get the job early on because they've settled into a marriage, they got their personal life under order, and they can devote everything to coaching and not have chaos going on in their personal life. And they used a lot of Christian values and principles to lead and direct their football and or basketball teams. And now we're moving completely away from that. And all the momentum and all the consideration about who gets a job, who gets to be celebrated, who earns a higher spot in certain positions. It's now all based on race, not on merit. It's not based on content of character. It's not based on performance. It's based on Marxist principles. Do you check a box? And that's why the sports media constantly celebrates. Man, we've got our 17th black quarterback who farted on a Thursday and threw an incompletion on third down. This is only the 17th time that's ever happened, and that's history. History's been made. This is antithetical to Christianity. And then when I started thinking about Caitlin Clark and what's happened to sports, I started like, well, hold on, man, how did we get here? How did this thing all start? And I didn't know at the time, a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years, I wasn't, or maybe I knew, but I just wasn't completely firm in my thoughts. That like, no, man, the Young Men's Christian Association started this whole thing, organized sports, and I've been reading books and doing homework, and I'm trying to write a book on Caitlin Clark as kind of a jumping off point. Things are changing very rapidly with Caitlin Clark. The headwinds facing Caitlin Clark, the unexpected injuries, and just everything that has happened in the WNBA season. It's like, man, Caitlin Clark and what they're doing to her and how much success they're having very rapidly in diminishing her. and rebranding the WNBA and giving her a clear choice. Either you're going to get on board with this feminist, Marxist garbage, or we're going to destroy you and move on. And we're going to lean into Paige Beckers and Nafisia Collier and Asia Wilson and everybody else that's on board with the messaging. And when you understand, when you look at the WNBA and you try to figure out, like, that doesn't make business sense. And then you have to come to grips with, they're not running a business. They're running a political movement. They're running a secular religious movement. They're running a Marxist movement, and money does not matter. Only the agenda. Only we have taken full control of the sports world. That's the only agenda. And I've connected it now to the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl's halftime decision led by Jay-Z. Here you have Jay-Z in control of the biggest platform in all of America, the Super Bowl. And Super Bowl halftime, that's the highest rated point of the Super Bowl. And Jay-Z, a gangster rapper, an unrepentant drug dealer, is in charge of it. And that's how you end up with Bad Bunny as the Super Bowl halftime performers. And so since Sunday, this is all I've been thinking about, is like, they're really going to bring out a non-English singing, rapping, speaking rapper who raps about sexual promiscuity and drugs and violence and cross-dresses and sexually fluid. They're actually going to do this at halftime of the Super Bowl. And then, so I'm just, last night, and I told you all on Fearless that I was up late till 2:30 in the morning. I was working out. I was talking on the phone to Jack Posobiec. I don't know why I keep screwing up Jack's name. I love Jack. But I'm texting back and forth with him about conversations I've been having about what we can do Super Bowl weekend. That you know, my obsession with sports and my understanding of how God gave Christians this tool of sports to disciple men into a masculine form of Christianity, and how in 2025 and in 2026, we've landed at a place where a cross-dressing demonic rapper is going to be the star of the Super Bowl. And it's like the NFL is a Tower of Babel. The NFL is the strongest force in American culture. And they've made it, the NFL that football used to reinforce Christian values, is now doing just the opposite. And as you guys heard me on Monday, like, it's brought me to my knees. It's brought me to tears. And it has. And last night, until like 2 in the morning, I'm either working out and sweating and crying over that, or I'm listening to, because I kept listening to Gyra over and over again. Is it Chadwick Moore and Elevation Worship and Maverick City? If you've never heard the song Gyra, it's amazing. And I just kept listening to it over, and it's a 10-minute song. Kept listening to it over and over and over again. And I just kept getting more emotional, just like, they're going to take the Super Bowl and use it to groom kids. This is the ultimate Tower of Babel. This is the NFL has become so big, it thinks it's bigger than God. and thinks that it owes God no reverence, thinks that it owes football fans no respect. And I'm like, we got to do something about it. And I thought about Charles, the guy that works with Harvey Levin at TMZ, and Charles laughed at me when I said, man, I'm going to do everything in my power to make the NFL regret this decision or reverse course on this decision. And he laughed at me. But I misspoke. I shouldn't have said, I'm going to do everything in my power, but it was just what I thought in the moment. Because what I really meant was, I'm going to call on God to do everything in his power. I'm going to beg him to use his power to stop this. And I think if we beg, plead, pray properly, I think God will do this. And it will be a sign that we're not powerless. Because we're not. Those of us that have surrendered and honored Jesus Christ, we're not powerless. We have the ultimate power. We refuse to lean into it enough. And so when I'm talking to Jack or texting back and forth with Jack, and when I'm thinking about ideas, you know, the whole Charlie Kirk memorial service is paramount in my mind. Look what TPUSA did. Look at that memorial service with music setting the tone. The music, if you didn't watch the whole 8 hours, if you didn't watch the first 2 hours, you missed the foundation that was laid for what happened over the next 6 hours with the speakers and all that. It was the music that tuned everyone's heart to God. It's the music that set a tone that made Marco Rubio and Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard and Benny Johnson and Pozo and Erica Kirk and everybody else just like, man, I just got to let it rip. I got to come out of the closet. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. The music did that. Music is so important, so important. It tunes the heart. It sets the mentality. It sets the heart of a nation, of a culture. And we've allowed rap music to become the #1 music in America, and we wonder why things are so corrupt, chaotic, degenerate, violent, so antithetical to Jesus Christ. We've allowed rap music. Let's ignore the idiots that, what about heavy metal? Heavy metal is not the most popular music in America. It's a niche form of music. The country music that Harvey and these guys reference, well, in country music, they talk about drinking and drugs, and they talk about womanizing it. But we know that's not the same as rap music. We don't have to play their game just because they want to go whataboutism. They know their whataboutism isn't the equivalent of what's gone on in commercial rap music, what's gone on with Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar and now Bad Bunny. And so I have been praying and working when I'm not praying. And I threw out that idea of, hey, we should get Forrest Frank and we should do an alternative Super Bowl halftime. And I started sharing that idea with people I respect and people in the music industry. I'm here in Music City. God put me here for a reason. I thought it's part of what I believe I'm here to do, to help use music to bring us together and bring us back closer to God. So when I came here in 2020, that was another part. I'm not making this up in hindsight. This is another part, like Music City. And you know how much I love Music City. And as soon as I started this show, we started talking about the harmony segment and just building out this harmony movement. I wanted to tap into music's ability to change hearts and minds and to set the stage for the Holy Spirit to be able to operate. And that's what we saw with the Charlie Kirk memorial service. We saw music so that the Holy Spirit could come into that football stadium and Jesus Christ can be glorified. And we need to do that with this Super Bowl. And that's what I was talking with Jack about and trying to see, is TPUSA, are they up for another event? And Jack's been tweeting, posting about, hey man, we should do Creed at halftime. And what if TPUSA gets behind that? And I didn't know a lot about Creed. I remember their music, but I didn't know a lot about it. And I went and looked and was, well, man, they were basically a Christian rock group. The lead singer, his dad was a Pentecostal minister. And if you go look at their lyrics, even though they didn't call themselves a Christian rock group, but the lyrics are very Christian. And so I was like, oh, I get where Jack is coming from. And I like Creed. But we need to be more explicit. We need to just come all the way out of the closet. Because Creed, say, hey, we're not a Christian rock group. Our music, the lyrics just happen to blah, blah. We need Forrest Frank. We need Brandon Lake. We need Maverick City. And God just so happened, I think it's on Tuesday, God scheduled me a dinner with a guy named Tony Brown, who is the founder of Maverick City Music. And this was on the schedule before, I had this Forrest Frank idea. It was just on the schedule. And then I had the Forrest Frank idea. And then I had someone, a business associate, reach out to me and say, hey, man, I got some real money I'll put behind. If you can get Forrest Frank to do something, I got some real money I'll put behind that. I got 7 figures I'll put behind that. And this is all this is God. And that's what, like when Charles and Harvey Levin are laughing at me, I don't blame them for laughing at me because I have no power. But God does. And he's put me in a position where I'm here in Music City. I get to engage with people that are decision makers in the music industry. I get to meet people in the music industry, performers, other behind the scenes people. And then last night as I'm talking to Jack, and I get a phone call from a mutual friend. It's a high-level music executive and someone that operates a bit in the political space. And when I'm telling him about what me and Jack are talking about, and I was like, man, Jack's big on Creed. And he's like, I'm sorry, someone help me out. You guys text me, because I'm the lead singer of Creed, I was told last night, lives here in Nashville. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it's the guy Jack's been talking about. Someone, is it Chris Staff? Is that Stapp? Scott Stapps. Yeah. Yeah, I'm about to get it. Yeah, Scott Stapp. Was told last night he lives right here in Nashville. I didn't know that. And the person I'm talking to says, yeah, I know Scott. And I know people that work with Scott. And again, who knows? But me and Jack texting back and forth until, I think Jack's on the East Coast. I can't believe how late he stayed up. And I hope I'm not, saying anything inappropriate. But we're texting back and forth. And it's like 1 a.m. my time. And if he's on the East Coast, it's 2 a.m. But maybe he's out west and it's earlier. I don't know. But when I started, and then when I just started thinking about, man, why would you meet the founder of Maverick City Music on Tuesday? Why would that happen at the perfect time? Why would, conversations I'm having with Alan Jackson, and why are all these pieces just falling into place? And Jack's saying that, maybe TPUSA does have some interest in having an event. And we just started thinking and talking about it. And then The last thing I texted Jack, and I think he was asleep by the time I texted him this, but I was like, we need to have the Jesus Bowl, the first ever Jesus Bowl. We need to host a Jesus Bowl concert on February the 8th. And we need to have a concert and invite Forrest Frank or pay Forrest Frank and invite Creed and Scott Stapp, invite Lauren Daigle, Brandon Lake, Maverick City, whoever. We need to have a counter event that's positive. I'm not anti-football, I'm pro-football. I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl. You could not pay me to watch this year's Super Bowl. But I'm not going to campaign for people not to watch the Super Bowl. What I am going to campaign for is that no one watch this demonic drag show that they're going to put on at halftime. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to try to do everything I can to push the ball forward to get people, TPUSA, somebody, anybody, myself, that we put on an alternative event that's available online for people at halftime to see Jesus Christ glorified on this Tower of Babel that they've built called the NFL. What man has created for evil, God will use for good. And so they want to take the NFL and promote this cross-dressing homo, what is his name? Bad Bunny. And we should take the Super Bowl and that weekend and promote Jesus Christ. Just snatch the Super Bowl halftime away from them because they don't deserve it. They're using football to promote something evil and wicked and harmful for kids. And at some point, you may not believe it, but I believe, and I feel like I've, in prayer, in my thoughts about Jesus, is we're going to pay a price, a major price, and we're already paying it. We're just unaware, we're asleep at the wheel, that our kids are paying a price for the wickedness that we allow. That we don't, oh, we're powerless, we can't object to the NFL, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and you know, this is the way it's always been. And let's just give up on sports, and let's just walk away from football. Let's walk away from a tool that God gave us to disciple young men in a masculine form of Christianity. And you're sitting here watching us hand that tool over to the secular crowd, and look at how weak men have gotten. You got to remember, there is no military draft anymore. Men used to get discipled through participation in the military. Now less and less men do that. We've taken all the degree of difficulty, all the tests, all the iron sharpening iron. We've taken that all away from young men. And they're giving it to women in the WNBA and in other women's sports. They're trying to toughen up women and soften up men. And we're allowing that. And we're wondering why, what's her name, Irina, can get stabbed to death on a train in Charlotte, and everybody, no one bats an eye. We wonder why young people are running around violently assaulting elderly people, innocent people, women, older men, anybody they think they can get away with it, and no one bats an eye. We think that this isn't a consequence of allowing this level of wickedness to go on with young people. We're murdering babies in the womb. And the Democrats are bringing abortion trucks to their convention. And we think there's no penalty for it. We think there's no penalty for supporting it or allowing it. And allowing it is supporting it. Not objecting to it is supporting it. Empowering the people that promote transgenderism, same-sex marriage, abortion on demand. There's a price we pay for that. Letting our biggest cultural event, the Super Bowl, platform, Bad Bunny, there's a price we're going to pay. And we should object because we can bring them to their knees. Enough people have had it, are looking for any opportunity to send the NFL a message. We can build something, an alternative event that will allow those of you that want to be idiots and watch this Super Bowl, and I say that somewhat fondly. I'm just telling you, I can't watch it, but I'm not holding you to that standard. But there's no way in heck any of us should watch that Super Bowl halftime. And I believe we can collectively put together an alternative for people to watch at halftime that celebrates and honors Jesus Christ, sends a message to the NFL, and I believe that in 2027, the next Super Bowl, we can demand that Forrest Frank do the actual Super Bowl, not our alternative event. The NFL will fold. Every knee will bow. Are we willing to shout the name of Jesus Christ loud enough that they have to bend the knee, come up out of their delusion? And so I'm committed to doing whatever I can to help people support, put together the Jesus Bowl in 2026. I want to do it right here in Nashville. It's Music City. I believe that it's part of the reason I'm here, to promote these ideas, to work with people that want to promote a harmony based on respect and reverence for Jesus Christ. I believe I'm here at this time because even people that have been in denial of Jesus Christ's kingship, I think they now understand the price of denying that. Your children are vulnerable. Your major cities are unsafe. They're grooming your kids in classrooms. They're going to have a drag show at halftime of the Super Bowl and make your kids ask you about the man in drag. I didn't have to have these conversations when I was a kid, and neither did you. And you have an obligation to provide this current generation the opportunities, the innocence that you were able to have during your childhood. We're stealing the innocence of kids. And this won't require some Herculean effort to fight back. We have a chance, Super Bowl weekend, February the 8th, on that Sunday night, to send a loud and clear message of who really is the king. And so I'm going to continue to put every effort I can when I'm not on this show into making this happen. And there will be headwinds, and maybe I'm even making a mistake talking about this out loud, because I'm sure Satan and his demons will be at work trying to make sure that it can't happen, and telling Forrest Frank and everybody else, oh, you stay away from Jason Whitlock. He's a Jesus freak. He doesn't believe in same-sex marriage. The Jews don't like Jason. Stay away from him. I love Jesus Christ. Make sure they tell you that. And I fear him. And so should you. That's Harmony. I'll have more to say about this as the days progress. We'll play Harmony, and I'll see you next time.
up so divided. Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God, let your light shine